that sometimes what's hurting your life isn't visible, but spiritual. It hides in envy behind smiles, in silent curses, in emotional wounds you've carried for years. Anger becomes your default, fear your shadow, and peace, a distant memory. But there's a forgotten weapon in the Bible, Psalm 78. Not just a song, but a spiritual map, a shield, a cleansing force that awakens protection, drives out hidden evils, and rebuilds faith where there was only weariness. This prayer isn't poetic fluff, it's divine technology. If you've been feeling drained, stuck, or spiritually under attack, there's a reason. And the answer is closer than you think. The moment you pray with intention, angels move. And when you align your heart with the power of Psalm 78, when life feels like a battlefield and everything seems to be working against you, there's one thing that can turn the tide: spiritual renewal. Psalm 78 isn't just ancient poetry. It's a spiritual key that unlocks divine protection when storms hit hard. It whispers the truth that even in your darkest valleys, you're never alone. And yes, angels are always close, especially when you decide to pray with intention, not just repetition. Imagine this. You're walking through a season of loss, confusion, or betrayal. That moment you open your Bible to Psalm 78 and start praying, not out of obligation, but out of deep, raw need, something shifts. You start feeling like your soul is being rewired. The weight lifts, and suddenly, faith becomes more than a word. It becomes your anchor, your shield. That's divine protection in action. Real transformation doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it begins in silence, in the quiet moment when you say, "God, I'm tired, but I trust you." That's when the energy changes. That's when renewal begins. When you pray Psalm 78 like it's your lifeline, your faith doesn't just survive, it ignites. And when that fire starts, guess what happens next? Ever walked into a room and instantly felt drained, like the air got heavier? That's not just your imagination, it's energy. Negative spiritual influences cling to environments and people, and unless they're cleared, they stick around like smoke after a fire. But here's the good news. Psalm 78 acts like a spiritual detox. It scrubs the unseen grime from your soul and surroundings, especially when you pray it with bold conviction. Let's get real. Life comes with its fair share of envy, spiritual oppression, and those off vibes you just can't explain. Whether it's at work, in your relationships, or even in your own thoughts, this buildup can weigh you down. That's why spiritual hygiene is just as essential as physical hygiene. A few minutes with Psalm 78 each morning, spoken aloud, eyes closed, hands open, becomes like opening the windows to let light in. Angels move in ways we can't see, and when you invite them through prayer, the atmosphere shifts. Try this. The next time you feel stuck or surrounded by negativity, light a candle, open your Bible, and pray Psalm 78 slowly. Imagine every word washing over you like cool water after a long, dusty journey. You'll feel lighter, calmer, stronger. And just when you think that's all it does, sometimes it's not the world that needs to change, it's the storm inside us. Anger, anxiety, sadness, they sneak in quietly and set up camp in our hearts. But Psalm 78? It's like a gentle rain on a parched soul. When you pray it sincerely, it doesn't just touch your spirit, it calms your emotions, too. It's like God whispering, "You're safe now." And trust me, that voice changes everything. Think about those days when nothing seems to go right. Traffic's a mess, people are tense, and your patience is thinner than a thread. That's when Psalm 78 works best. Not when everything's perfect, but when everything's too much. Recite it slowly. Let the words settle. You'll notice your breathing slows, your shoulders drop, and your heart, it finally gets a break. That's the peace only divine connection brings. It's not hype, it's healing. You don't need a spiritual retreat or a mountaintop moment. You just need a quiet corner, a moment alone, in this psalm. Make it a habit, 5 minutes before bed or right after waking up. Let your heart speak while your lips pray. The angels listen, and God answers, sometimes in stillness, sometimes in peace so deep, it silences the chaos within. And when that peace settles in, something even deeper begins to unlock. There are things in life that keep repeating like a broken record: failed relationships, constant setbacks, unexplained anxiety. Sometimes it's not just coincidence. Sometimes it's spiritual. Harmful ties, curses, and unseen energies can cling to your path like invisible chains. But when you pray Psalm 78 with purpose, you're not just speaking words. You're breaking bonds. Real ones. Ones that may have followed your family for generations. Take Maria, for example. She kept losing jobs, even though she was qualified and hardworking. When she started praying Psalm 78 daily, something shifted. She stopped blaming herself, started recognizing spiritual interference, and used the psalm like a sword. Within weeks, not only did she land a new position, but the constant heaviness she'd carried for years began to lift. That's not coincidence. That's divine intervention working through sacred words. Psalm 78 is more than comfort. It's a weapon, a spiritual reset button. When you feel trapped in patterns you can't explain, it's time to use it. Light a candle, write down the cycles you want to end, and as you pray, visualize those chains snapping. Angels respond to intention. They move faster when your prayer carries the fire of faith. And once those invisible cords begin to break, forgiveness isn't just a nice idea, it's spiritual surgery. Holding on to resentment is like trying to run a race with chains around your ankles. Psalm 78 gently guides the soul to release what it's been gripping too tightly. When you pray it, you're not just speaking to God, you're releasing weight from your heart. And that's where true freedom starts. Forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. Think of Joao, who carried the bitterness of a betrayal for over a decade. His heart was hard, his spirit tired. When he began praying Psalm 78 daily, not just reading it, but really living it, he started seeing forgiveness as liberation, not surrender. It wasn't overnight, but slowly, the anger loosened its grip. He cried, he healed, and one day, he woke up with peace instead of pain. That's the power of letting go through prayer. You see, spiritual progress doesn't happen while you're still chained to old wounds. Psalm 78 works like a bridge between past and future, if you let it. When you open the Bible and pray, ask for help to forgive what still hurts. Angels are drawn to that kind of humility. And when forgiveness flows, so does energy. So do blessings. And just when you start to feel that lightness, not every smile is sincere, and not every glance is harmless. Envy is silent, but it stings, and sometimes it sticks. That's why spiritual protection isn't optional. It's necessary. Psalm 78 acts like a divine force field, shielding your soul from the evil eye and hidden jealousy. When you pray it daily, it's like calling in your angels to stand guard, ready to block whatever was meant to harm you. You ever notice how some people only show up when things are going wrong, or worse, disappear when everything's going right? That's not just bad luck. That's spiritual tension in action. One woman I know started praying Psalm 78 before every meeting, especially around certain coworkers. Not only did her stress go down, but the tension in the room lifted. She didn't just walk in, she carried light with her, and light, it repels darkness. Here's a practical tip. Write down your worries, especially when you feel spiritually exposed. Read Psalm 78 aloud right after, slowly, intentionally, believing every word. That declaration creates a barrier, a wall of divine light. Angels respond to strong, clear prayers, and that kind of energy drives out negativity like sun-dissolving fog. And once your spirit's protected, your home isn't just a place. It's an extension of your spirit. And when the energy feels heavy, tense, or just off, it's often a spiritual sign. That's when Psalm 78 becomes a powerful tool for purification. Walk from room to room, pray aloud, and feel the shift. It's not superstition, it's spiritual maintenance. Just like you clean the floors, you've got to cleanse the atmosphere. One man told me he couldn't sleep for weeks. Nightmares, noises, constant restlessness. Nothing worked until he opened his Bible and began reciting Psalm 78 out loud every evening. He lit a candle, asked the angels to guard his space, and within days, the house felt different, lighter, still, and finally, restful. You don't need incense or rituals. You need faith, the Word, and a voice willing to declare light over darkness. Try this. Open all the windows, let fresh air in, and read Psalm 78 into every corner of your home. Speak to the walls, to the doors, to the unseen. You'll notice tension dissolving, arguments lessen, stress eases, and a quiet harmony settles in. It's like inviting heaven to dwell with you. And once your home becomes a sanctuary, faith isn't a light switch, it's a fire you feed. And the more you feed it, the brighter it burns. Psalm 78 is like spiritual fuel. The more you pray it, the more your faith grows strong and unshakable. You begin to walk differently, think differently, even react differently. Doors open, ideas flow, and blessings? They come not just because you asked, but because you're aligned with the divine current. I remember a young man who started reading Psalm 78 every morning before work. He had little, barely getting by, but that psalm, spoken with conviction, began to change him. He stopped doubting, started trusting. Opportunities showed up. One, then another, a raise, then a new position. But more than the material gains, his faith became his foundation. That's what real transformation looks like. You don't have to be perfect to receive blessings. You just have to be connected. When you make Psalm 78 part of your daily life, it's like opening a direct line between your soul and heaven. Angels take notice. The Bible speaks clearer. And your prayers? They don't just rise, they echo. So before you move on to your next chapter, now that you've walked through the power of Psalm 78, the question is, what will you do with it? Will you let it be just another message you heard? Or will you apply it, live it, breathe it? Imagine starting each day with a prayer that shields your soul, purifies your home, releases emotional pain, and unlocks blessings. Imagine the change, not just in your circumstances, but in you. What are you still holding on to that needs to be forgiven? What negative energy have you allowed into your life or your space without realizing it? And most importantly, are you ready to see what happens when you stop trying to fight spiritual battles alone and start fighting them with the Word, with angels by your side? If this message spoke to your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and stay with us on this journey of spiritual awakening, divine protection, and Bible-based power. There's more to discover, more to unlock, and this is just the beginning.